But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
Muted. A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
That's right, Brett Walsh. Welcome back, boys and girls, to the 9x9, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage on the internet. Today is Tuesday, November 28th. This is episode 98. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago. 98. That is Everett Delorme, live from Toronto. And I know this number of episodes isn't exactly right, but still, that's a lot of episodes. That's a lot of episodes.
It's actually way more because of all of the other ones, but still 98 is pretty damn good. It's the Connor nice. Bedard. It's the Connor Bedard episode.
That's right. Pretty nice number. We've been going here in the 9x9 for a pretty long time, and there is never a shortage of volleyball to talk about. Obviously,
when was the first episode, Rob? Let's.
It was November. It was November of 21. So I think we just passed the 2-year mark a week or two ago.
Let's take a couple of moments here to go back through all of our live streams, which is a lot at this point. A lot at this point, because you consider all of the previews and world championships and VNLs and all of this stuff. Like, you have to go back to the black logo.
Oh yeah, before we change the thumbnail.
November 9th.
Ooh.
November 9th. So we're well past our 2-year anniversary now, Rob.
Love it.
So welcome. Appreciate all of you who has been here by a raise of hands in the chat. Who's been here since that first episode?
Yeah, who is one of like the 200 people that watched episode 1?
that one was probably like 100 people.
Yeah, so we've come a long way, but there's never any shortage of volleyball to talk about. So it's given us constant stories, constant reactions, constant content, and don't worry, we will talk about Piacenza. And this week, instead of starting in Italy like we usually do, I want to start with the CEV Champions League because 100%. Men's week 1 was last week. This coming week, actually, right this very moment, we have a men's game going on week 2. Yashemsky is going to 3-dong Budjovice, no problem. But this is a big week in Champions League. Both men's and women's have very good matches this week. But let's talk about men's week 1.
Mm-hmm.
You all should have watched our Champions League preview by now that we did with Eric Shoji. So we're going to assume that you all have watched that. If you haven't, stop right now, go back and watch that, then watch the rest of the show. So Champions League is fully underway. We talked about the pools, we talked about the structure, we talked about all that. Now we just got to talk about the matches. 2 big ones this week, Everett. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with Tools Resovia.
Bang.
Because this one... So I have a little bit of a tier list that I did. I got some caught up in a little work, so it's going to get posted soon. I put Tools in the last tier. This team was 2-5 in the French league coming into this match. This team was outside of a playoff spot, was fighting off relegation in the French league. And they're going up against Resovia. Now, Resovia has been very, very good. TJ DeFalco has been very, very good. You know who was not really good in this one, Rob?
TJ DeFalco.
You know who was really good in this one?
Abuba. His former teammate from Viva Valencia a few years ago.
It seemed like maybe that, like bring in some, like sprinkle in some 2021 Viva Valencia magic. Because, man, Abuba was on fire. And, I mean, I do have the feeling that Abuba has the ability to pop off in games like this, especially when in another team that may not tend to care as much, right? Was it an away game?
No, I'm pretty sure this was in Poland. Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
That is even worse. I mean, DeFalco was real bad in this one. Abuba was real good. Boyer was all right. Boyer was it was Boyer and the middles.
20 for 33 is better than all right. Like that. That's an awesome match from Stéphane Boyer. Only 4 errors plus a block and an ace. I mean, that he certainly was not the problem, but it wasn't so much statistical for me watching this match. It was body language and bad vibes on the Resovia side in a way that it's kind of tough to put my finger on. They don't look cohesive. They don't look like they like each other very much. They don't look like they just don't look like they like each other. They don't look like they're having fun. They don't look like they really want to be there, or they feel like that like playing a Champions League match against Tours is worth their time. And I mean, they have a hard pool. They're also going to have to play Trentino, like not this week but next week, and by no means is Resovia making out of this pool guaranteed at this point, now that they've lost to Tours. And I don't really understand I don't know what the fix is here. They've clearly got some like maybe some outside hitter questions with like who's going to be the second guy, Chebul or Luati, because DeFalco is going to continue to start. Even this game, he was quite bad, but that is atypical for him.
DeFalco, like if you don't start DeFalco,
oh yeah, you're going to start DeFalco. That's not a question. But it was interesting to hear what our Polish friends were saying on the Discord, in the Poland channel and the CEV channel about this match and about kind of Resovia in general. It's like there seems to be a feeling that there are players on this Resovia team that are not on the same page about how they're attacking this season, sort of mentally and emotionally. It seems like there's different levels of commitment and different levels of competitiveness. And I hate to keep saying it, but there's one guy.
We both know.
There's one guy.
We both know where the problem is. You've been talking for so long, and we can pin it on one person. It's like, how many drinks did Fabian Drieska have before this game? You know, like this is a guy who has always just been about the vibes, right? No thoughts, just vibes. And his vibes can go all over the place, right? Like, oh man, like I would understand why. Like, you know what I think? I liken TJ DeFalco a lot to Jimmy Butler. You know, he can be if he's in the right system and he has the right structure around him, he can be gangbusters. TJ DeFalco, Team USA, he's got his boys around him, right? He's got John Sparrow there. TJ DeFalco, LBSU, right? Like you've got your team there. TJ DeFalco versus Resovia seems like he seems like a bit of an outlier. He seems like a bit of an outlaw, like a bit of a bandit. You know, like he should be wearing a bandana and a cowboy hat, like going across the Midwest, because you know, like he's a bit of a vigilante. And I could 100% see with, especially like, because the thing is that I think with the addition of Boyer on this team, right, like this is now a party team, right? when you have like Drieska and Boyer, like when you have Boyer at JW alongside of
Tony Uti was
of Tony Uti, there's a little bit of like, hey, no, like I can keep you in the reins. But then when you're setter, the guy who gives you the ball, the guy who sets you the ball, is the guy who's like, hey, let's go out for drinks. Hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's you know, like is the guy who's just kind of just like fluffing it through warm up. And we've all been there. We've all played with that guy. Yeah. For me, unfortunately, it was Jory Mantha, who's still ripping up the Bundesliga. He was the guy who was fooling around during workouts and all this time. But yeah, like I could 100% see where TJ's bad attitude comes from, given the assortment of characters he has.
Yeah, and so this is all, we don't know any of this for sure. But this is all pretty well informed speculation. I think we know enough about these players' personalities to have a decent opinion on what's going on here. Yeah, and when you say TJ DeFalco, like similar to Jimmy Butler in the right system, it's not an X's and O's system. It's a personality system,
100%.
Like coaching staff and you know relationships within the team sort of system. That's what you mean. Like I actually really like that comparison a lot. TJ is very fiery, very competitive, and sometimes that portrays to people like watching from the outside who don't really know him that portrays like a bad attitude. But yeah. I would actually kind of like it if I were his teammate. He holds people to a very high standard, including himself. So he's going to be the most upset about his own performance in this game, because he wasn't good. Like 7 for 20, 3 errors, extremely low efficiency, didn't serve well, passed okay. Like that's not good enough by TJ standards. But
No.
yeah, when he feels like he has to like emotionally drag his team into trying to compete in a Champions League game, that is frustrating no matter who you are. And what I hope is that this is a wake-up call for Resovia, because this roster on paper, other than the setter, I mean, Kokhanovsky and Quos in the middle, Boye, DeFalco, Chebul, and maybe Luati on the wings, and Zatorsky at libero. Like, this is a Champions League winning caliber team.
This team could walk into the gym against any team in the world right now and potentially pick up a W, right?
Absolutely.
But attitude-wise, they could also walk into the gym against any team in the world right now and lose, as they are losing to 2-5 tools.
And this is what Champions League is all about. Like, this is when it gets fun, is when we have these outstanding on paper rosters playing against a team from a totally another country who they know nothing about, who's probably greater than the sum of its parts, who, like Tours, has been really bad to start this year. Like, they've been bad in the French league. They won the Super Cup, but like the bad otherwise. And now all out of nowhere that they pull an Abuba performance where he goes 15 for 29. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong stat line. 25 for 44, even more ridiculous. Yeah. With a block and an ace. And like, this is a guy who's extremely error prone. And the one day he keeps the ball inside the sidelines is the day they play against Resovia. And Tours, mentally watching this game, Tours deserve to win this game.
Budejovice just took their first lead against JW, by the way. One thing I will have to point out, we have talked about the Resovia curse, right? We've talked about the Zhezhov curse, but that to me is only in the PlusLiga. Is there a curse right now, Rob, on that third Polish team in the Champions League? Because let's remember back to Zawiercie last year, who was shit, right? Didn't make it out. Lost to Berlin twice.
They did make it out.
They did make it out, but they were the third team.
Yeah, and they got stomped by Zaksa in the first round, and then Warsaw the year before.
Warsaw the year before, exactly. Back when Anastasi was leading them. Maybe there's something a bit of a curse on that third Polish team, because on paper all of these teams should have been right up there, and on paper so far they've been really bad. So maybe Poland as a whole just isn't used to being that relevant in the Champions League.
Very interesting. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. But I mean, they're a Polish team, has won the last 3 of these competitions, and Zaksa obviously, and then JSW is no stranger to
just the third team.
Just the third team.
Just the third team. I think JW and
pattern.
JW and Zaksa expect to be there now. Like they've gotten to the point where if they aren't at the Champions League, then that's a miss of a year, right? And if you go to those teams, you expect to play in the Champions League.
Oh yeah,
right?
100%.
You expect to be a contender. Whereas on that whoever that third team is, I mean, it could almost be anyone. Yeah, it could really be one. Maybe they're just not ready for it. Who knows?
Maybe. So first big upset of Champions League happens in week 1. Very interesting. The other match that we definitely got to talk about was the one that we all had circled. As good of a week 1 match on paper as you could ever ask for. Halkbank Ankara goes into Italy and beats Piacenza 3-1 for 3 points. And remember that with the Champions League format, every set matters, but especially every point, like every standings point, is enormously important. So
and this one was real close to going to 5.
Oh yeah, very close.
This one was real close to going to 5. I mean, Piacenza has, and we're going to talk about it, Piacenza is having some issues on the right side right now. No Romano. He did dress for the game on Sunday against Monza, didn't play. They started Gironi, who was actually pretty good against Perugia over the weekend. No, Lube over the weekend. No, Perugia last weekend. Doesn't matter. They started Gironi. He wasn't great. When they brought Leal over to the right side, that's when they started winning, and that's when things started kind of changing. Like I really liked that look, having Ricine and Lucarelli on the left side, and just allowing Leal to bang on the right side. I mean, that's when they made that change in the third set. That's the set they won. That's when they really started to serve well. But then Halkbank is also a team that was really able to weather that storm. Like Piacenza was leading for most of that fourth set, and they were able to make that comeback once they were able to handle the serving and handle the different look of the offense. Halkbank looked really, really good in this one. And when this Halkbank team is having fun, Rob, they are so dangerous. so dangerous.
The duality of Irvin Ingapet, he has that effect on teams when you get Irvin in the zone, when like he's always going to have fun, he's always going to have that just sort of the way he carries himself on the court. Whichever you and I saw him at VNL, like you got to see him in person, because when you get a chance to look at only him and just see the way that he moves around, even when the ball is nowhere close to him, it's really fascinating. I've never seen a player like him. But when his behavior is having a positive effect on his teams, that's the teams that he's on are super dangerous, because they get this incredible like downhill momentum that we totally saw from Halkbank here. And it was Irvin himself that in the fourth set really put the nail on the coffin from the service line. I mean, he had that ace to win it, and then did like a full victory lap around the arena running around.
That to me was awesome. But when you look at, like, Irvin's always been a good time player, right? But then when you look at who he has around him, Micah Ma'a, and I thought that we haven't really seen Gord Perrin at all this season.
I thought Gord was really good.
Gord was really good. He was really solid. And you can tell that, like, everyone has their role on this team, right? Like, Irvin's the P1. No one doubts that, especially in these international competitions. You have Gord Perrin, who's just going to come in and pass nails, which is exactly what he did in this one. I mean, I thought Halkbank passed really well all around.
It did.
Namir is just going to get a ton of volume, and Micah Ma'a is the good time king, just the laid back Hawaiian in the back, just slinging the butter. Like, I love the competition of the composition of this team, Rob. I really do.
Me too.
It's so much fun to watch.
I also want to give a shout out to actually both Halkbank Ankara middles. I thought they both hung in there pretty well. Doğukan Ulu and Mert Matic both. I mean, they had 14 points combined. Matic in particular, they have 5 blocks combined, a couple solos on the middles. They got Kineski and Simone one-on-one a couple times. Like, that was a good performance. That was one question about Halkbank's roster construction, because it seems like the better Turkish middle blockers play for Ziraatbank instead of Halkbank, and this is a good performance for them. Even their libero, this Volkan Dune guy, who I don't know much about, he passed great, dug a couple balls, and it's just a nice combination of skill and physicality. I mean, Micah Ma'a is one, and Micah Ma'a against Antoine Brizard is a fun setter matchup. That's as physical of a setter matchup as you'll see. Namir just exudes physicality, and then you have a whole lot of skill in Gord and Irvin on the left. And then you have Mirza Lagumja off the bench, who we saw a little bit. If you need more high ball scoring, then you got that option. This is a well constructed team, and Namir very good, 17 for 32. 11 blocks as a team for Halkbank, pretty good. They pass the ball great. 7 aces to 15 errors is outstanding. And kind of what we were saying about them last year, as they got all the way to the semifinals of Champions League, is once they start to play against really good teams, it's how clean of volleyball can Halkbank play. And last year they struggled with that a little bit, but with the addition of Irvin Ingapet, looking a little shiny right now.
Because like last year, what did they have? They had Jeshki, they had Bruno, and then they had another Turkish guy as well, right?
Yeah, I don't even remember which Turkish guy it was.
But like when you look at this roster as a whole, it's such an improvement, right? When you bring in Gord and if you have Mirza Lagumja, I didn't think Lagumja didn't play fantastic coming in off the bench. I think he's been playing much better in the Everett League than what we saw last week.
Tough job off the bench against a good blocking team. Yeah, whatever. But
for sure. But I really like the composition of this team.
Me too.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. They've taken a massive step forward from last year, and I think they're very much in the realm of being able to beat the best Italian and Polish teams here, because here they are getting 3 whole points against Piacenza.
Yeah, and there's a very good chance that they're going to play Perugia in the Club World Championship in about 2 weeks. And if we see that match, that's going to be electric. So I'm looking forward to that. On the Piacenza side, I agree with you. While Yuri Romano can't play, the move is Leal on the right. 100%. Like the 3 out, whether you want to do like a 3 outside hitter thing or just like purely put Leal on the right and hide him and bring in Recine for him on the left. That looked good to me for a set and a half.
Recine's looked good so far this season. I've really enjoyed watching Recine. And I mean, he's definitely undersized, but like, let's be honest, like we're kind of seeing like Italian ball right now is kind of undersized in general. right? Like if you look at what's happening with Monza, you know, EFL drops 21 points as a left side
on the right side.
on the right side. You know, like Gironi is coming in. Like there's two dominant right sides in the league right now in Richliki and Bentara. Other than that,
Lagumsha is, I think,
Lagumsha, Lagumsha,
still
okay,
number
yeah.
one.
Lagumsha, I'll take that.
You're right that you can have success even in the SuperLega playing small ball. And yeah, Recine has been good. 6 for 11, no errors, 2 blocks, pass the ball fine against Halkbank off the bench. Like that doesn't bother me at all. I while Romano is out, I completely agree. Leave Gironi on the bench. Leave him on the bench.
Yeah,
we've seen enough. He's played enough on the right side. We've seen enough of this experiment.
I think Gironi is a really, really good sub in.
Right.
You know, I think he's a really, really good sub in, but I don't know if he has that ability to really push it on a consistent basis. At that point, I would much more. I would trust Recine a lot more on the left side and Leal on the right than I would with Gironi's just straight up on the right.
For sure. And another thing I want to point out, and we'll revisit this when we talk about Piacenza versus Monza over the weekend. Keep an eye on Robert Landy Simone's stats. It's been a while, maybe even since he's played for Piacenza at all, the last year and a half. It's been a while since we've seen a proper Robert Landy Simone stat line, where he goes like 10 for 13 with 3 blocks and 3 aces and like dominates in all 3 phases. It's been a while since we've seen that from him. And I know that he's getting older. He's not 100%. He's dealing with the back issue. I still don't think a year and a half in that him and Antoine Brizard have figured out how to connect.
No, I really don't. And there was a moment in the Monza versus, and I'm just going to jump into it now, where it was a scoring play, but Brizard found him on a 31 and just shot it to him. And it seemed to kind of catch Simone off guard. He didn't really get a good one. He was able to just kind of push it through and put it down. But I've talked about this before, whereas like De Cecco and Simone worked so well off each other just because the vibe was so good. You know, like they just play off each other so well, but we haven't seen that connection happen with Brizard. And there's always, for me, it almost seems like a spacing issue, you know? And Brizard, I found, always sets Chinese so well because Chinese has such a weird window because of the way he's able to bend it outside.
Yeah, he needs a much loopier ball.
Yeah, loopier in a different way. Like I think Chinese needs a fast ball that loops around him, whereas Simone really needs a bit of a loopier ball because he's not a Kokanofi middle where he's up and he's a swing. He needs to get up to it a little bit more.
Simone takes it out of the setter's hand pretty darn fast, especially for a guy that big. Whatever it is, there's just something about that connection that still a year and a half in doesn't work. So just keep an eye on Robert Landy Simone's stats because
we were able to see Simone really pop off throughout the playoffs. Like there's a few times towards the end of the year where I think it's just kind of like a, hey, give me the damn ball.
Like flip the switch.
You flip the switch and he can just go off. I'm not too worried about him in November. I'm worried about what his stats are going to be looking like in March.
Fair enough. But like no way ever should the Halkbank Ankara middles be completely outperforming the Piacenza middles in every category. I mean, Eduardo Koneski hit 0. 2 for 5 and blocked twice. Like that, that's got to be an area of strength for Piacenza the next time these two teams play, which will be in Turkey in probably a month and a half or so. So that'll be great. Let's look around just the rest of the Champions League results from week 1. A couple things to point out here. Both Ziraatbank and Trentino, they're top of the screen, winning 3-1 against NAC Rusolare and Ljubljana respectively, but in overtime in the 4th. Those were very close to being maybe 5-set wins, 5-set losses, whatever. But like that is very close to 2 pool favorites dropping a point in week 1. And that's what you got to look at here. Like if you're looking at a team like Trentino, who's in Resovia's pool, or Ziraatbank, who's in Zaxa's pool, every point is massively important. You must get 3 points against the lower teams in your pool, even when those teams are decently good, like Ljubljana and Rusolare. And the other thing is teams like Lube and Jastrzębski, they need to win every set. When you're playing the all 3 bad teams in your pool, you need to win 3-0 every single time. And JSW against Guagas 30-28 and 26-24, and then Lube 25-23 in the third. So even though there are these massive talent disparities, there still are sets that are ending up closer than they should be. And one of these times, that set is going to go the other way, and the worst team is going to steal a set here and there, and that's going to have a lot to do with the standings and the rankings. So keep an eye on that stuff. Every set in Champions League is really important.
Yeah, that ranking at the end of it all, right? When you rank the first teams like 1 through 5, like that could be such a huge difference. I mean, last year we were really down to the wire of what it could happen.
Oh yeah.
So it's
like
going to be
same thing. Zaxa versus Olympiacos. They won sets 3 and 4, both in overtime. And that was a good match. So all this stuff, it's all going to matter.
It was a good match, but Zaxa also wasn't playing their guys.
They played all of them that they had. They have a third string setter, but it was Bednor, Schlifka, and Kaczmarek. Like it was as much of the starters as possible. Then they had dang it,
I Takfem, the Norwegian.
I think for a bit, and then they put Pashitsky in. I forgot the name. Maybe it's Szymanski, the guy, the outside they picked up from Katowice.
They did.
Bit.
Szymanski did play from what I remember seeing. Yeah. I want to give a big shout out to Lundberg getting their first dub in the Champions League ever over Budijovice, who's playing right now against JW.
That one is tied late in the second set, by the way. JSW is up 1-0. Yeah,
Ryan Sclater's got a nice little block. Let's go, Sclate.
He got it on nice.
But anything else to chat about here in week 1?
Yeah, Berlin handled Benfica. That was good.
That was actually a pretty good game, though. Benfica stuck in there with them. Like Benfica's a solid team all around. Like they're in a tough pool, but I think they're a solid team all around.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Prague. People were laughing at me for putting Prague so high in my tier list, but here they are getting the 3-dong over Maaseik.
Maaseik is a joke, and that was a very close 3-dong that they have. Even if they get second in their pool, that like I was saying in the Champions League preview, they will be that team that everybody wants to play in the first round of playoffs.
100%, absolutely. You want Prague in that first round.
Easy.
Yeah.
All right, so before we talk about what's coming up this week in Champions League, there are a couple other things in the CEV Cup that I wanted to point out. It's normally way earlier in the year than anything interesting happens in the CEV Cup, but this one was. Shoutouts to Hypotirol Innsbruck from Austria, home of Tim McIntosh, the American libero who we got to know over the summer. They beat Fenerbahce at home 21-19 in the fifth in the first leg of the CEV Cup. I think there's 32 teams left at this point. And all of these matches or series, they're all like the classic 2-match CEV, home and home, potential golden set sort of format. So Innsbruck, I mean, beating Fenerbahce in the Turkish league has been very, very good to start this year.
We literally, like one of the last comments in the chat, something be like, Turkish league is much more competitive in men's this year. Fenerbahce and Galatasaray are looking for a place in the top 2. In the top 2 places that
must be someone who's relatively new to the show, because we're on top of all this stuff. But the Fenerbahce men are good, and Innsbruck, an Austrian team, beating them is a big deal. Now the thing is that now Innsbruck, actually I think tomorrow in CEV Cup, has to go to Istanbul and beat them again, because if Fenerbahce wins at home 3-0 or 3-1, they advance straight up, no need for a golden set. So that's how the CEV Cup format works, and we'll see if Innsbruck can pull the upset. The other one, Everett, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this. 2 teams I've never heard of. Radnički from Serbia versus Craiova from Romania. 3-2 match, 30-28 in the 5th set. 30-28 in a tiebreaker. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I can't wrap around the mentality of that.
30-28.
I'm trying to put myself in that headspace of going to the distance like that in a 5th set. That is absolutely that's crazy to me. That's absolute craziness to me.
If we have any Serbian or Romanian fans, tell us something about either of those teams, Radnički or Craiova.
Yeah,
I've never heard of either of them, but 30-28 in the 5th set is like nothing I've ever seen before.
Oh, also shout out to Cam Branch, a nice Canadian on that Innsbruck team.
Nice.
Out of Nipissing University, the Lakers. So look at that. We got a bit of a North American bit of a North American connection over there in Austria.
Very nice. A couple other notable teams in CEV Cup. There's a matchup right now, Nantes versus Chaumont, like two French teams that are playing. Actually, Nantes beat them in the first leg. And then Zavierce is in CEV Cup, and Milano out of Italy is in CEV Cup. And there's a good chance that those two will play very, very deep in the tournament. But I just wanted to point out the Innsbruck upset and 30-28 in a fifth set is like nothing I've ever heard of in my life.
That is absolutely crazy. I mean,
bonkers.
Hell, even this one going 21-19 in the fifth is crazy too.
Yeah, that's sweet. All right, so here's what's coming up this week. Men's Champions League Week 2. It starts today, like we've said already. We've got Budovice and JSW playing right now. Tomorrow is a ridiculous day. It is a ridiculous day. We've got Halkbank versus Berlin, bright and early. I think that's 5 p.m. local, I think. Yeah, it's 10 a.m. Eastern. Then immediately after that, in the very same arena, we have Ziraatbank versus Zaxa. So we've got the back-to-back in Ankara tomorrow. Both Berlin and Zaxa on the road playing in Turkey. So that's awesome. Ljubljana versus Resovia is only interesting because Resovia lost last week.
Yeah.
Get right.
It's really that's they need to have a bounce back,
and they need
to have a bounce back.
And they need to win 3-0, in my opinion. That has got to be like a convincing 3-0 win. Galazzi versus Masejek, who cares? Olympiacos versus Roeselare is actually a decent match, but it's.
I'm interested to watch that one because I think Roeselare. Also, can we figure it out? Is it Roeselare or Roeselare? Because because in me, Belgium is like part Flemish and part French, and there's a lot of French spoken. So like I would read that as a French word.
I googled it last week. I'm pretty sure it's Roeselare. I think. So
okay.
we'll I guess we'll see.
Maybe we have some Belgian fans in.
I was annoyed. I was annoyed watching Roeselare last week against Ziraatbank because they were playing that Sepe Roti guy who played outside for Belgium in Olympic quals, who was very good. They played him on the right side over Diego Gonzalez from Mexico, and I didn't like that. Like, put him on the left, and like we saw Gonzalez be so good at last year's World Championship. I was just looking forward to seeing him, and he was on the bench instead, and there was an outside playing opposite over him. So I didn't really get that.
Well, maybe that's why Mexico fired their coach, because they had a absolutely terrible international season this year.
The Mexican national team did fire their coach.
They did.
Also tomorrow, Lundberg versus Guaguas is a decent game. It's in Spain, in the Canary Islands. So good for Lundberg, getting a little cool travel vacation in the middle of the season. Trentino versus Tours is a decent game. Zaxa versus Ziraat is must watch. Then Lube versus Prague and Piacenza versus Benfica. Like, I'd say 9 out of 10 of these games are very much worth watching.
Yeah, pretty much all of them. I mean, maybe Lube versus Prague, not so much. And I mean, Rob, this is only the men's side of what's happening tomorrow.
And
too.
That's
the big part.
Finally, we get a very good week of Women's Champions League, and it's about time. Fenerbahce versus Łódź is okay. Stuttgart versus Asterix Avo, not really, but I mean, it's the
second page. Yeah, it's the second page. There we go. Especially those first two at the top. Even Jezhov against Canigliano kind of interests me. I don't know if anyone is really going to be able to push much, but man, Vakif against Molonza.
Spicy.
Okay, spicy. Scandici versus Zabasha. Tasty. I want some of that. Hell, even Lodz versus Le Canef. Le Canef has a bit of,
that's a pretty good game on Thursday.
Was the only non-Turkish, Polish, or Italian team to get a win so far in this tournament. So, like, there is so many. This is hands down the best week of Champions League so far, and it might be the best week of Champions League that we have all year long.
Yeah, very possibly. Like, there's so many storylines. I mean, Molonza versus Vakif, you have the swap of Paula Egonu and Jordan Thompson from the offseason. Huge amount of overlap there. Scandici versus Ajibasha, it's Maya Onjenovic against her former team. Like, there's so much going on, and there's no foreigner limits because both Scandici and Molonza and Vakif, for that matter, could kind of use some some degrees of freedom with the foreigner limits, and these matches are going to be awesome. Like could be like Champions League quarterfinal or semifinal previews in pool play, and I'm very excited about these. So you got to have 2 screens going. It's a bummer that a lot of these matches are going on at the same time. But get in front of however many screens you've got and get ready to watch some Champions League ball tomorrow. It's going to be an awesome day.
Yeah, it really will be. It really, really will be.
And get in the Volleyball Source Discord. Good plug for that. Get in the Volleyball Source Discord as a place to watch and talk about every single game going on. The link's in the description. It is the best online volleyball chat community in the world, and it is built for days exactly like tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's built like it's popping off right now.
Of course it is. So before we move on to the rest of the show, a little earlier than usual, I want to talk about a couple things. The first is a very special Black Friday, Cyber Monday-ish sale featuring new stuff on thatvolleyballstore.com. Look at that. Look at that merch line.
You guys asked for it. We provided it. Where's Daddy merch? There's already a bunch of orders come in, Rob.
Love it.
It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be good. I absolutely love it. This sale, 25% off using the code DADDY, only lasts for like 2.5 more days. Once December hits, it is done. Okay, once December hits here in Canada on the Eastern time, so you need to head over to thatvolleyball.store, use the code DADDY to get 25% off your entire purchase, and that is only good until December 1st. So once December 1st hits, it is done and you can no longer use it. But a bunch of you have already gone out and picked it up. Appreciate you. We love you for it. A lot of you have been really, when we do a 25% off a sale, Rob, the margins are so small. Like we are making like small dollars off of this. So we appreciate you. Make sure you go in and use the rest of it, code DADDY, to get 25% off your entire order. Not just the Daddy V, it's everything.
Yeah, thatvolleyballstore.com is the new URL. The link is in the description, and you should go check it out. And that code will expire in a couple days, so take advantage of it while you've got it. Speaking of Daddy Stankovic, it's time for everybody's favorite segment. It's time for Where's Daddy? Our favorite human being on this channel, Daddy Stankovic, is hidden somewhere in the show, like he always is. And it is a mad dash for you all once you find Daddy Stankovic to comment the timestamp of where he is in the main YouTube comment section after the show is over. And if you do that first, you get a shout out the following week. So last week we were talking about the PlusLiga, and if you see there, hidden inside the Charny Radom logo, who got 3-donged by JSW and have yet to win a match in the PlusLiga. Inside the Charny Radom logo, covered in that nice light blue color, there's Daddy Stankovic. So a couple of you found him. Yana XOXO found him. Diego Martinez found him. And Kenny McGraw found Daddy Stankovic. So good job to you guys. And once again, Daddy's hidden somewhere in this show. When you find him, wait until the show is over. Put in the main YouTube comments section where Daddy is and the timestamp, and you can get a shout out next week. Always a fun little scavenger hunt. And my favorite part of the week is photoshopping Daddy somewhere weird. It's always a very good time for me.
JW just won the second set over Budjovic. Yeah.
Budjovic, Everett. Budjovic. 29-27. Okay, a little overtime there. And that's 2-0, right? So they're probably well on their way to a 3-dong. But yeah,
they are probably well on the way to a 3-dong. Yeah, you're probably not wrong there, Rob St. Clair.
Here's Daddy Stankovic. Make sure you keep an eye out for him. Let's move on to the SuperLega. There's only like, let's say maybe 2 matches to talk about here, and it's certainly not Trentino versus Catania. Certainly not Milano versus Padova. Certainly not Cisterna versus Modena. We don't need to really talk about any of those games.
No, for sure. I definitely want to start back to Piacenza.
Yes.
Monza versus Piacenza, because this one was a bit of a banger. Had a great time, drank a beer, ate some chips, hung out on the couch on Sunday afternoon, went for a nice walk with my tea on Sunday morning, and then it was raining, so I just sat by the windows. It was fantastic. But you know what? This game is what was heating me up. This was a back and forth game. Piacenza won the first, Monza won the second, Piacenza won the third, Monza won the fourth, and the fifth. It would have been tighter, Rob. There's a huge caveat in this one that Antoine Brizal did injure himself in that fifth set. That was the big thing. He was lunging for a ball. He seemed to have hurt his lower back. It was very interesting, though, as the announcer was pointing out, is that he didn't go and get treatment. He just kind of put his tracksuit on and just kind of stood at the end of the bench. Generally, like I suspect, when does Piacenza play? They play tomorrow? I suspect we're going to see Brizal again. Like we have to. But the injury to Brizal definitely changed things. But to me, it comes down to Piacenza is a very, very good team when they serve tough.
Yep.
Like when you go back to that like their first set when they were down, Brizal goes back to serve, Simone goes back to serve, kind of changes up the game. When they're not serving tough, they just seem to be having those miscommunications, those misconnections. It just doesn't work as cleanly as other teams. Whereas on the other side of the net, you have a Monza team that is full of chemistry right now. Hell, you bring out Arthur Schwartz, you put an EFL on the right side. Doesn't matter. It's an MVP performance. He drops 21 points. He was almost automatic. It was incredible to watch.
Out of position. I mean, that you can't say enough about how insane that is. 17 for 29, 3 blocks. Like the blocking is the craziest part. Eric never blocks on the right side. That is remarkably impressive to.
Well, he didn't club when he was a setter.
Okay. 10 years ago, that blocking at the international level, flipping, like mirroring your blocking footwork and your eye work and everything is very hard. And that's all the more impressive what Lepke was able to do at opposite, like leading the match and scoring, like at playing out of position. Like that is insane. Very rare and special performance. Very rare.
To me, you've got two teams who, on paper, Piacenza should be better than Monza. Like, is that fair to say? Like, if you look at these teams on paper,
fine, like on paper. But if you've watched even like 5 minutes of either of them play this year, then you know that this is built to be a heavyweight fight, and it was.
Absolutely, right? But like when you go down position by position, like P1, like Leal versus Mar, you're gonna pick Leal. Lucarelli versus Rand, you're gonna pick Lucarelli. The only question mark for me would be on the right side, versus I would still pick Lepke over Gironi, right? Hell, at this point, I might pick Lepke over Romano, but still, like on paper, this Piacenza team is made to win, but it's the chemistry that you see that this Monza team has that really just brings it all together.
I like what you said about Piacenza and this in serving and just generating their own momentum from the service line. Like that's how we saw them have success last year. But it's the same thing that goes with an individual player. Some individual players can really, dig themselves out of a hole and build downhill momentum towards the rest of the areas in the game by what they do at the service line. Piacenza takes that and expands it to the entire team. If that entire team serves the ball well, then they generate that downhill momentum that makes them feel unstoppable. But Monza,
one of those games.
No, it was not one of those games.
5 aces, 28 errors.
That is horrific. 7-22 for Monza is definitely better. Still not super pleasant to watch, but a good bit better, about 1 to every 3 instead of almost 1 to every 6 for Piacenza, which is so bad. But Monza's chemistry is something that you can't fake that. And it also it's pretty impervious to just about anything except for injury. Like that chemistry just is. They're going to be able to lean on that in just about every game that they play. And the engine of that is Cachopa. I've loved watching that dude set this year. So much fun to watch.
He seems way more comfortable in a Monza jersey than he does in a Brazilian jersey too.
Doesn't feel anybody breathing down his neck.
He doesn't feel anyone breathing down his neck. He doesn't have a legend who is clearly favored by coaches and the federation. Like this is his team and he knows it.
Yep.
And I also think that having Lepke on the right side, defensively, Lepke was awesome. Like he makes digs, he keeps balls alive, he sets out of system. And it just provides a lot of look. Hell, we had Arthur Schwartz block in the middle for a little bit there.
I kind of like that.
The versatility of this Monza team is really, really good. You've just got a lot of grinders.
The thing is, though, that Ron Takahashi got hurt at the end of this game and is going to be out for about a week and a half, 2 weeks or so. And already with losing Ibrahim Lawani, they don't have a fourth outside on the roster. Monza will have absolutely no choice but to start all three Canadians. It will be Mar and Lepke on the left, and it will be Schwartz on the right. They literally don't have any backups at either of those positions now. So that'll be fun for Everett to watch. But that depth and that versatility is getting taken away by a couple injuries here.
But that's exactly why you have that depth,
Right.
right? Once you start getting into the Zaxa territory where you are like, no team can suffer injuries to like multiple starters and be okay with it, right? Like there's no team in the world. Maybe Perugia is the only one, but even then, like we've seen like they've lost a match this year because they didn't have everyone at 100%, right? So yeah, like when you are down your really, really good P2, like that is going to have an effect. But I don't think like I like, who do they have this week? I don't even know.
Milano, big crosstown game.
Ooh, that will be a good one.
And poor volleyball world, they were probably salivating at the day Ron Takahashi met Yuki Ishikawa on the battlefield. And they're not going to get that because Rand's out. So sorry, Ace Vollywood and volleyball.
Yeah,
social media.
I love how every Vollywood post is now collaborated with Vollywood.
What a joke. What a joke.
Okay.
What a joke.
Okay there, bud.
What a joke. But yeah, like that game will still be good, even without Rand, because Monza is good and Monza has options. At least we hope they do. We hope that literally everyone on the team doesn't get hurt.
Do we wonder why is Kachopa just really good at setting that small ball offense? Is that why Lepke's been so effective?
Maybe. I also think it's a complete lack of scouting data against Lepke on the right side because nobody else has ever seen it before.
Yeah, but they also run it real fast.
They do run it nice and fast.
I love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Love it.
It kind of looks Brazilian, yeah. So that plays into what Kachopa's good at.
I love it. What else? What else do you want to talk? Do you want to talk Lube versus Toronto here?
Yeah, I do. There's not really any world that Lube should be going to 5 with Toronto. Now, no. Toronto has a new coach now. They're maybe trying to refresh the vibe and try not to get relegated. And but still, Toronto should not be taking 2 sets from Lube Civitanova. They won sets 2 and 3, and then Lube had to win it like 18-16 in the 5th on a block by Chinese, which is not the first time we've said that this year. So Lube dodges a bullet. Good to see Toronto play a little bit better. Kyle Russell was much better. Still too many errors. 19 for 45, 7 errors. Lanza, not good. That's predictable. But Jose Miguel Gutierrez is pretty good. 19 for 39. Passed pretty well.
22 points.
That's pretty good. But yeah, Lube probably was sleepwalking here a little bit. And again, the first stat line I look to when Lube struggles is Ivan Zaitsev. And 5 for 15, 3 errors, and didn't pass the ball that great. And in Italy, that's going to be the thing because of the foreigners. He has to play great at outside hitter.
There's been a very big switch for me this year on Lube, and it comes down to the passing. Last year, we were all over like Zaitsev's passing. Everyone was surprised by it. It's like kind of blown away. Like, oh man, Zaitsev out here passing the ball looks good. Nikolov out here passing the ball doesn't look good. It's completely flipped the switch on this one. I mean, Zaitsev's passing numbers were terrible on this one. He got aced once.
And Nikolov's were amazing.
Were amazing. Yeah, exactly. 35% positive, 13% perfect for Zaitsev, 70% positive, 55% perfect for Nikolov.
That's
and
fantastic.
Like one thing for me, and if Toronto, to me, like just looking at these numbers, all 3 of your serve receivers are getting the same amount of volume. Pick someone. Have a serving strategy. Figure it out here because there's no way that when you're playing against a team like Lube, where like everyone should be like if I'm going up against Lube, every damn ball goes to Nikolov, right? For the first half of the season. As things are progressing, like if I was a coach on the Toronto coaching staff, I'd be like, look at these passing stats for Zaitsev. Every ball goes to Zaitsev. Every serve goes to Zaitsev. Move him around. Put him long. Put him short. Every free ball goes to Zaitsev. Take him out of the game because when Zaitsev struggles, the rest of the team struggles. But there's just no serving strategy here for Toronto. None whatsoever. And you can tell that. Whereas like on the other side, like Miguel Gutierrez almost passed 50% of the balls for Toronto. That adds up over the course of a game.
Yep.
All those decisions add up over the course of the game, right? He got served 42 times. He got set 39 times. He had 22 serves himself. He's touching the ball a minimum 100 times a game. That becomes a thing, right? And it's like I'm sorry, this is basic level strategy for me. Why isn't it being applied?
Great point.
Like,
especially with a brand new coach, now it is Dragan Travic's father, who hasn't been anywhere near Italian volleyball in like 2
boomers.
decades. So, but you're absolutely right. You can't turn your brain off from the service line in the SuperLega. You must serve with strategy, or you're going to get relegated. Now, but it's crazy that Toronto even almost won this match, because they got an opportunity with Ivan Zaitsev having a bad game, and then Botolo off the bench for him wasn't very good either. And they didn't capitalize on it, and they're probably going to really regret that missed opportunity, losing another 5-setter. Do they have a win this season yet? No, they're 0-7, but they're actually not in dead last in points. They're a point ahead of Catania because they've lost 4 5-setters. It's crazy. Got to get one of these.
The pass, or like the serving for Toronto, is just really not that good. 4 aces on 23 errors.
Terrible.
Yikes. Just brutal, almost giving an entire set away on missed serves, and you're not putting on the pressure otherwise. So, I mean, Lube, like this is where I don't understand Lube with all of this, and especially when we want to jump into it too, with the rumors going around that Blanghini is going to be done after the season. That
is the widely accepted rumor that John Lorenzo Blanghini is going to leave Lube after this season and take the full-time head coaching role of the Bulgarian national team.
Which is it makes sense. Nikolov has thrived under him.
Right.
Like, Nikolov's your guy. You want to center your team around Nikolov for the future for your Bulgaria, 100%. That's a fantastic move for.
I like that hire, especially with the young generation that they have that keeps dominating at U17, U19, whatever. Like, bring a guy like Blanghini in to get the most out of them. I love it, but it will be interesting to see the future of Lube after this season,
because Lube has been so up and down. Like, this is a team that has beat Perugia, arguably the best team in the world, and yet loses to Monza, goes to 3 with Toronto. This Lube team, I just can't wrap my head around them just yet.
Yeah, they're an interesting one. One other game I wanted to at least point out was how not even close to competitive Verona was against Perugia. It was a 3-donging in kind of embarrassing fashion. Everett, look at just.
I already know what you're gonna point out.
Look at Verona's passing numbers.
But look at Lube's or Perugia's. They're not that much better. Like straight up, it was 33-21 compared to 34-23. The only thing is that Perugia just didn't get aced as much. But Perugia's offensive numbers are widely better. 49% hitting compared to 35% hitting.
This is gross. I don't like this.
Yeah, this is just bad.
Another just vomit-inducing Verona stat line, and it's so bad, in fact, that remember at the beginning of the year there was some French guy named Axel Truchev, who we had never heard of before, that for some reason was starting at outside hitter for them. He's like, you know what? I'm done with this. Get me out of here. He actually requested his release, and Verona let him go, and they let him walk, and now he's playing for PAOK in the Greek league.
Isn't he Bulgarian too?
It's a Bulgarian name, but I actually think he might be French. I'll look it up.
Axel. Because when you look at Amin, Amin is clearly not a high ball hitter too. When you look at these stats,
oh god,
Amin, look at
oh no,
exactly. Amin was 2 for 17.
5 errors.
5 errors. Thank God he got 3 blocks to somewhat save himself, but he was a -4 overall on the night.
Man, that team needs Nomori Keita back in a very serious way.
Yeah, Francesco Sani was 2 for 10. He got blocked 3 times.
Their libero passed 8% positive, 0% perfect. What are we doing? What the hell are we doing here? This is so bad. How can Radostin Stoichev be allowed to continue to have a job?
I don't know. And
What, who even is this libero? Who is Pietro Bonisoli? Who is that? Like Francesco D'Amico, at least, is a guy who's played in the Superlega before. Either he's hurt or he's just benched. I don't know what the deal is, but your libero passes 8% positive? How is that even possible?
I don't know.
My goodness. I don't need to say anything about Perugia here, but like, my God, Verona is bad. So bad that one of their bench players was like, get me out of here. And another pretty embarrassing 3-0 loss with like half the team in negative attacking efficiency.
Yeah.
Gross.
Pretty bad overall. Perugia serving, and this one was crazy. 9 errors, 10 aces. I'm sorry, 9 aces, 10 errors. Still. Just gross. But yeah, this Verona team is just a disaster, man. Like, just figure it out. Figure it out.
Well, there's one very simple move to figure it out, and we all know what it is.
Gianni to Verona.
Right. Looking at the standings now, just to put some of these matches in context, Perugia did play an extra match this week. They beat Padova last Wednesday because they had to move a game up for the Club World Championship in about 2 weeks. So that's why them and Padova have played an extra game. A couple other, just to tie up some of these. Dude, this is weird. There's been more roster and coaching movement before the new year than maybe I've ever seen in a club season.
Ever. I kind of love it.
It's kind of cool. So we talked about some of these things last week. Michele Baranovic, the old setter, is back with Cisterna. That's official. What now is rumored to happen, it isn't official yet, is Davide Saita is likely to leave Cisterna and go to Toronto. And Angel Trinidad is likely to leave Toronto and go back to Spain and play for Guaguas, actually, the Champions League team. So those two things aren't official yet, but it seems very likely. And then Catania, the new team who's in last right now, picks up another older Italian guy, this Jacopo Massari guy from Hebar Pazardzik. Another Italian guy leaves that Bulgarian team who seems to really be crumbling apart financially and comes back to the Superlega.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like some people in the chat in the Discord were breaking it down what's happening with Pazardzik. It looks like the former mayor of the town was legally or illegally throwing some money towards the team. Now you've got a new mayor in, and he's not as willing to spend some public funds on a team. And because there was a while there where Pazardzik was like, it was basically Brad Gunter and the rest of the Bulgarian national team.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's what their team. So starting to see that change a little bit from there, and it's unfortunate, really, because they're really the only relevant team coming out of Bulgaria, like anytime recently.
Oh, for sure. So they seem to be sending a lot of older Italian guys back to the Superlega. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on all these early season transfers. Speaking of early season transfers, there are a couple things in the Lega Volley Femminile to talk about in that realm. Here's the results from last week on the women's side. We were talking about the Busto Arsizio coaching vacancy because Julio Velasco was kind of forced to step down by the Italian Federation after he took the women's national team job, which I still will die on the hill that is garbage and should never have happened. But Busto promoted this guy, Juan Manuel Quicello, another Argentinian guy who was the assistant coach. So he's the new head coach of Busto, and they grabbed a point from Cuneo over the weekend. And another coaching move, another coach firing, Bergamo. Bergamo has fired their coach, Matteo Solferati, a guy who I know nothing about. But Bergamo was a playoff team last year, and they have been just miserable to start the season. They are 1-8. Let's look at the standings. 1-8, really bad. So they made a coaching change, see if that can help anything on that side.
That's a tough one there for Bergamo. Wasn't it Bernardi their coach?
That's Novara.
Novara.
Right. And speaking of Novara, they had a very interesting week. They had one of the craziest sets probably in Italian volleyball history, going 44-42 over Firenze in the second set. And honestly, I give Firenze a ton of credit because a lot of times you see if a match goes insanely deep into overtime like that, the team that loses that set kind of lays down and dies the rest of the match. But Firenze down 0-2 after losing that one actually came back and won the third. and made a match out of it. So good for them. But like 42, 44, you never or very rarely see a match get into the 40s. It happens like once a year. So it's worth pointing that one out.
This match just kind of proved to me that Navarra isn't legit, that they're not to be taken seriously, and that this is really just a 3-team league. You know, you go Canigliano, Malonza, Scandici. After that, there's a big drop off.
I do agree with that. Firenze is not particularly good. I was never convinced by Novara. I thought they had a good start because they didn't play very many good teams. But I mean, 44-42 is certainly worth pointing out. The only
100%.
The only match I really wanted to talk about this week was Scandici versus Chieri. It was a 5-setter. I at least thought it was kind of interesting, and Chieri was able to hang around for a long time, in my opinion, because Scandici just played like trash. Played really bad. Anna Carolina, the middle, led the whole match in scoring with 18. Well, no, she didn't. She led Scandici in scoring anyway. But Antropova was not very good. Maya Onjenovic got benched because of some foreigner limit problems. Zhu Ting wasn't very good. Britt Herbots was okay, but only 11 points in 4 sets. She got yanked because of the foreigner limit. Like that, this was not as good of a performance from Scandici against an inferior team.
Zhu hasn't exactly like lit up the Italian league like I was expecting her to.
She's old, man. It's unfortunate. She's a great player of a generation, but she looks pretty washed. It's kind of a bummer.
I mean, we've got a lot of our Chinese fans in the Discord and stuff like that being like, "Oh, just watch what happens to China next year. They're going to get Zhu Ting back, and they're going to be so good, and they're going to win the Olympics." No, sorry, it's not going to happen. You're going to lose to Alexa Gray and Canada in the BNL.
Who says they're even going to get Zhu Ting back? She's been like lukewarm at best about the idea of playing for China again. I'm just
regurgitating what the students
I know.
are saying.
Yeah, there are a lot of Everett gets particularly triggered by Chinese fans because there's a little rivalry there with them in Canada.
Which there isn't. I'm sorry, we beat China on the regular on both sides. Our record against China this year is 3-1.
Let them know, Everett. This Scandici game is alarming to me. If you're a fan of Scandici, you should not need 5 sets to put away Chieri. Now, Kaya Grabelna was good. Avery Skinner, the American, was pretty good. Katerina Zakayu in the middle, 12 for 25. That's good. Loveth Omaruri, who I like, was okay. Did get served off the court as the primary target. And it's kind of a revenge game for Ophelia Malinov against her former team. But that's about all I had from this Lega Volley Femminile week. There wasn't that much more that was competitive.
No.
Here's the standings. You can really tell that it's starting to separate out sort of as we expect. Now, Novara still only has that one loss. They haven't played very many of the other good teams yet, but right now it looks like a 4-team league, and I agree with Everett that I think it's a 3-team league.
Yeah, it really is in terms of like talking about the championship and stuff like that. Well, to be honest, I think it's a 1-team league. I don't think Scandici or Malonza have anything that they could. Maybe Malonza because they have Agonu, and that's really the only possible result there. Yeah.
I like shout out to Corneliano as well. Their backup setter is Maddie Bug, American out of Stanford, who's engaged to American setter Matt West, which is cool. And Corneliano like randomly throughout Champions League and in their 3-0 win over Casa Maggiore, they don't even bother playing Joanna Volosh. They're like, Maddie Bug, you got this. Like, go out and set this team. And she does and looks confident and wins 3-0. And I like that. That's cool.
Once again, a fantastic organization making smart choices.
How about that?
Right? Figure it out, Stoogechev.
It all comes back to Stoogechev, you know?
Yeah. 21-19 right now for Budovice in set number 3.
Oh, okay. So they might steal one.
I mean, they were up late in the second last time, and they also had like a 4 or 5 point lead before this, and now it's evaporated. So got Sam Taylor Parks, the Canadian out of TRU, back there serving right now. So
okay,
ooh, nice little run to Huber. Maybe this is what we should do, Rob. We should just have these shows where we just commentate games, but you have to watch it and like try to make sure everything's in line.
Good. I'm sure that's a real good viewing experience for the people. Let's move on. There was one enormous match in the Sultanlar League that we definitely have to talk about. Fenerbahce
100%.
beats Vakifbank 3-1. This is a very interesting match. Obviously, whenever these two teams play, it's interesting. But like compared to the playoffs, the couple of playoff series that we saw between these two last year, the overall firepower and like level of volleyball right now is not nearly as high because you don't have Paula Egonu and you don't have Melissa Vargas, but still very competitive game. Gabi Guimarães did everything that she could for Vakifbank here, 20 for 33 attacking, plus 3 blocks and world-class reception, but Jordan Thompson was not good at all, and Ali Franti at outside had to get benched. So Gabi had no help, and Fenerbahce had Fedorovtseva be pretty good and Stisiak be good enough. So it was basically 2 weapons against 1, and Fenerbahce wins at 3-1.
I mean, Fedorovtseva, in my opinion, was a little better than pretty good.
Yeah,
she was 21 for 39, got 2 blocks and 3 aces.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And then passed real solid while being the number 1 target of the day. Like Fedorovtseva, I think she's struggled a little bit this year, and she really turned up on this one. Stisiak was all right. 13 for 30. But yeah, Rob, the Americans just really, I wouldn't say struggling, just getting blocked a lot. Eight blocks in total for the Americans in this one between Franti and Thompson. It's tough. I mean, I'm not sold on Ali Franti being an elite outside. Like an elite, like game-changing outside. Like she's nowhere, like she's no Gabi.
Well, that's the thing. I think there are exactly 2 elite game-changing outsides in the world, and they both played in this game. It's Gabi and Arina Fedorovtseva, and that's it, if you ask me. Like, there's such a huge drop-off after those 2 players at that position. It continues to be amazing to me how few truly great outside hitters there are in the women's game.
It's really weird. Like the only ones like I can name 5 elite outsides.
I think Li Ying is 3 in my opinion.
And then like
Gabi, Arena, Li Ying,
Alexa Gray, and then Britt Herbots when she's on.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. Like where every single outside hitter in the world is having to be just a role player and not a scorer. It's pretty wild. Another thing that I wanted to point out in this match is the middle blocker performances. Ada Erdem of Fenerbahce completely dominated this game. Let me see her stats. 10 for 17 is a big offensive impact, plus an ace and 3 blocks. She shut down Zara Gunesh, who went 2 for 9 and got blocked once. Like that is very uncharacteristic for probably the best middle blocker in the world. So that was kind of icing on the cake for Fenerbahce to dominate the middle blocker matchup that way.
Yeah, I mean, when you're going to set down Zara Gunesh, who's one of the best in the world, like, and that's like when these 2 teams play, you're going to need a full team performance from either side if you're going to get a win. I just love that it's so all over the place this year. Like there's so many question marks. 24-23 right now for the Czechs.
Ooh. So here's the full results from the Sultanlar League week. The only other good one was Murat Pasha beat Kuzey in 5. So cool. Zaja Pasha beat Nilufer easily. And that's kind of about all I've got on that one. Here's the standings. It couldn't be more clear that this is a 3-team league. Look at that. 8 points separating 3rd from 4th this early. It's crazy.
Even THY is just nowhere near. No.
Nobody else is relevant. And remember, only 4 teams make the playoffs in the Sultanlar League. So it's going to be the top 3, obviously, and the only drama is going to be that 4th spot.
Oh, yeah. Very much so. So I keep on wanting to see Besiktas make a run, maybe Galatasaray, maybe Nilufer, but Pasa so far has been kind of the next step team, and Koziboro as they just beat them.
Mm-hmm. So that's it. I didn't see anything that notable in the Turkish men's league to talk about. At least not this week. All right, let's talk about the PlusLiga. Actually, kind of a big upset week in Poland this week. We had Skra Belchatov giving Warszawa their first loss of the year, and then a huge one. Barkom Lviv beats Zaksa in 4. 2 big ones.
That one was surprising. Not so much as like we know that the issues from rosters that people have been having, but still, like, Zaksa been interesting. It's been an interesting early season for them.
Yeah, so I was looking at the stats, the Skra Belkatov stats, and I was wondering, like, did Skra just catch fire for a game? And they kind of did. I mean, you got a really good David Konarski game, which I sound like a broken record in saying that is extremely rare. But he went 22 for 38 and hit 47% efficiency. So like that's an awesome game. Let's see who are their wings. Lipinski was okay. Oh man, they have that Romanian kid, Aciobanice. Don't know much about him. He was pretty good. With the lefty Pierre Dorion is coming off the bench. He's actually pretty good. So Skra's got some options there. But Warszawa just wasn't all that good. Only 34% efficiency as a team. Bowanj, the opposite, got benched because he kept getting blocked too much. At least that's what it looks like from the stats. But maybe he got hurt. I'm honestly not sure. Then you bring in Linus Weber, kind of for the first time at opposite, like all year that I remember. 9 for 16 with 2 errors isn't bad. We didn't see Taylor Averill yet. He was at the match, but like didn't dress or warm up yet. So he's working himself into that Warszawa roster. Maybe he can help out with their middle situation.
Oh, I mean, I hope, like, if he can't, then who will? You know, like, you're not going to be going to pick up Robert Landy. Like, there's no doubt that Taylor Averill is the best middle available on the market.
Oh, for sure.
And I mean, I would be very comfortable saying Taylor Averill is a top 10 middle in the world. No doubt about it. We saw what he was able to do in this league last year for Olsztyn. You made a face there. Do you disagree with me or agree with me?
Oh, no. I
was going to say, like, come on.
Taylor Averill, he's awesome, especially.
He's 100% a top 10 middle in the world.
Top 10.
Top 10, yeah.
That one I would have to think about. There's a lot of good middles. But Taylor's definitely one of them. He's awesome.
Yeah. For sure, which is once again why it makes US so friggin' annoying to play against, because it doesn't matter who you slot in. Oh, JW took the lead. Oh, and they just won.
Did they really?
Yeah, JW. It went from 24-23. Oh,
challenge. Yeah, I look seeing on Flash Score it actually says 25-25.
Well, JW just scored the point, but on the scoreboard they had Budejovice up by. Did I say that properly? No.
No.
How do you say it?
Budiovice. It's
Budiovice.
Yeah, don't pronounce the J. What was the other one I wanted to look at? Oh yeah, Zaksa versus Lviv. I assume that Polonsky was good, and he was. Yep, 16 for 35, 17 points. Vasyl Tupchi really good, 19 for 37, 46% efficiency for the Ukrainian opposite. Very nice game there. Who did Zaksa even start here?
Yeah, like Takvam got the start. Radoslav Gil?
That's their third setter.
That's their setter.
Yeah, so Szymanski, Śliwka, and Kaczmarek at wings. Wow, Kaczmarek was really bad. 7 for 22, 6 errors. That's rough.
5% efficiency on the day there for Kaczmarek.
Ooh, Szymanski, even worse. 6 for 26, 9 errors. Ow.
Yeah, minus 12 efficiency. Ooh. Whenever you see a team with 25% efficiency, that's going to do it for you. That is going to do it for you right there.
Yeah, Zaksa. I feel bad for Zaksa. They're walking wounded right now. And I mean, we talked to Eric on the Champions League preview like 2 weeks ago. He's like, they have a big block of games coming up that they're trying to focus on. And they got that win over Olympiacos in Champions League, but I guess at what cost? Because now they lose to like definitely an inferior team. And
yeah, but you're playing 1 million games in the PlusLiga this year.
You play 1 million games.
Hell, if you're Zaksa, you could lose all the games in the first half and then just run the table in the second half and still probably make the playoffs, right?
That's exactly what they did last year.
Exactly. They were terrible. Not terrible. They were very mediocre in the first half. Oh, JW just takes it. David Smith was very good in this one. No surprise there. 8 for 9, a block and 2 aces. So that's pretty good for David Landy. He had the highest.
And Zaksa only had 2 blocks as a team in this game.
Yeah, that's bad. That's 9 for Lviv, and I think Lviv is a solid team, man. Like this is not a team that you can fall asleep against. This is not a team that you can kind of bring a bench team and expect to get wins. Like
It's not. I mean, there are very few teams in the PlusLiga where you can do that. And you talked about that they play a million games in the PlusLiga. Everett, you were talking to me before the show that the PlusLiga announced something pretty big going
They
into
did.
not next season, but 2 seasons from now.
Yeah, back and up and moving forward, looking forward to the 2025-2026 season. They will lessen the league down to 14 teams, which has been the call from everyone, from coaches, from players, from fans, from everyone. And from 16 to 14, that means you're playing 4 less matches in the regular season. It's going to give more chances for, like they put a big emphasis on European competitions. And I think especially now with the success of Zaksa, with having the all Polish final last year, like they understand that the best place to showcase Polish volleyball is in the Champions League, is in the CEV Cup, is the Challenge Cup. So they want to put more to that. And I really hope that this also brings in some playoff format changes, because having just the home and the home away is garbage.
Yeah, that's
bring us back this series. Bring us back a 5-game series. That's what I want. That's what I want for the PlusLiga. We don't need the North American best of 7. That is almost too much. 5-game series for the quarters, semis, and finals. That's what we want. None of this home and home bullshit.
Agreed. Yeah, it feels like they only made that change this year because they were so strapped for time in the schedule. And sure, like you're gonna. It's always good to have give an opportunity for as many teams as possible to play, but you've really got to think about the players here. The players are just absolutely beat into the ground by this schedule and just by all that they have to do in international and club volleyball. It's a good move to cut the PlusLiga down to 14 teams. So not next season, but the season after that, there'll be 14 teams in Poland. I think that's absolutely a good move. Here are the standings in the PlusLiga, by the way. Through almost everyone has played 7 matches. Olsztyn just got a good win yesterday to kind of complete match day 6. Jastrzębski now the only undefeated team in the league after Warszawa loses to Skra.
Yeah, JW and Trentino, really the only 2 big teams who are undefeated.
Oh yeah,
I guess Berlin is undefeated still as well.
Yeah, of course.
Berlin, JW, Trentino.
And Sultanlar Ligi, there are no undefeated teams. Effler Ligi, I think Zerot. No,
Canigliano.
Yeah, Halkbank and Fenerbahce in the Effler Ligi are both undefeated, and Canigliano has to be undefeated.
Canigliano is undefeated. Yeah,
they are.
Has Halkbank lost in the cup?
They lost the Super Cup to Zerot, but that is not in their regular season standings.
So I guess Trentino lost in the Super Cup as well too.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
So so did JSW.
JSW also lost in the Super Cup. Okay, so we have no undefeated teams this year.
Reverse swept by Zaksa. I mean, I guess Berlin hasn't lost a game this year, have they?
No, they haven't.
Well, that's pretty typical. Okay. One of our Polish friends in the chat says that the number of injuries and a lot of very vocal feedback from the players, plus the new FIVB calendar, were a lot of what the PlusLiga considered in reducing the size of the league in 2 years. And good move. No brainer in my opinion. Even it was 14 like 2 years ago. It's only been 16 for a little bit now. So it's the right move to go back to that, definitely.
16 is way too much.
Too much.
For volleyball, 16 is way too much.
Yeah, you just don't have enough time to play that many games, plus all CEV. Okay, Everett, there's only one more thing to talk about on the show today, and it's an interesting one because we don't talk about women's NCAA that much until now.
Let's go.
The regular season is over. The championship bracket has been set. Selection Sunday was just 2 days ago, and now we know the 64 teams that will play a single elimination tournament to decide the women's NCAA champion. Kind of 4 quadrants. We'll talk about them all, but Everett, you like to say a lot that this is the best product in all of women's volleyball or volleyball period.
Volleyball period. There's nothing that gets me going like the NCAA tournament. There's nothing that's covered like the NCAA tournament. There's no viewing experience that is as good as the NCAA tournament. There's like, it's just, I mean, Rob, you're a sports guy like me. How fun was it growing up and having that, like, especially like, hey, maybe you get a sick day or like a snow day on that first Friday of the NCAA tournament and you just get to watch basketball all day. It's like
the
this,
best.
but it's like this, but way better for volleyball. Just because like I'm not, when I'm like 11 years old, like I'm just learning who Villanova and Wake Forest and Purdue and all these teams are, and you're just kind of like figuring it out. But it's so much fun. Now with the NCAA tournament, it's just even better, especially with how I think right now NCAA women's volleyball is at the peak that it's ever been. Right?
Oh,
It's like
growing so fast.
the numbers have been absolutely massive. Of course, we had that massive game with Nebraska playing in the football stadium, almost setting the record. I know people want to say they did, but there was actually a women's soccer game back in the 70s that had more people. So it's the second largest one, but still, like the numbers, like there's Big Ten volleyball games that are outperforming Big Ten football games on the Big Ten network. Like that's where things are happening. So once we're coming into this tournament, especially considering that pro volleyball in the States for the women starts in the new year, there's so much looking at this tournament. I think there's going to be so much interest in coming in. Man, like we saw it. Like, look at how interesting that Nebraska versus Wisconsin game. Although, what is going on? We have had 2 Nebraska versus Wisconsin competitions this year, head to head, right? Both in the Big Ten. Are we not supposed to have access to the Big Ten network with our Volleyball World subscription? Why is it all the Big Ten games except for when Nebraska and Wisconsin playing? What is going on?
Yeah,
Why
I
am
don't know
I
about
paying
that one.
Why am I paying money to not watch the best games in the world? Like, what
Yeah.
is going on?
I don't know about that one. I mean, I'm in America. I don't have that problem, but yeah, Volleyball World TV picked up the rights to
Figure it out.
the Big Ten volleyball. But why can't you watch all of them? That's very stupid, unacceptable.
Yeah, it's dumb. But first, Rob,
I have a lot of thoughts about. Well, I've been on record many times saying that the NCAA itself is a horrible and corrupt institution, but
terrible.
It's so bad for it's bad for sports everywhere. But the NCAA women's volleyball tournament is must watch. It's awesome. It probably is the best product in all of volleyball. It's very different from what a lot of you are used to watching. Liberos can serve. You get like 15 substitutions, like without that 1 in 1 out rule. So there's a lot more specialization going on. There are a lot of foreign players in the NCAA. Like a lot of countries around the world have figured out that the NCAA is a fantastic training ground and development league for their players ages 18 to 22-ish. And also, like we always talk about every year on the show, as soon as the tournament is over in about 3 weeks, it'll be early December. Those players that are graduating, there's a great chance that they'll immediately be on the market to go and play for teams in Europe that need them. It happens every year. Every year it happens. And a lot of those players go over and they have impacts right away. So there's going to be a lot of drama. It's 64 teams, single elimination, which is crazy. So
one and done.
Right. One and done. You lose one game, you get upset once, and you're done. That's it. So a lot of drama. Let's kind of take a look corner by corner. The number 1 overall seed in the entire tournament is Nebraska, which is not a surprise. They're awesome. They're an absolute juggernaut of a program. They have a ridiculous fan base. They put like 10,000 people at every game. So like in each sort of corner, each sort of region of 16 teams, I don't really like that they seed 1 to 8 instead of just 1 to 16. You might as well just seed 1 to 16.
Yeah, let's have a 1 through like a straight 1 through 16 ranking, like they do for men's basketball, like they do for women's. I don't understand why women's basketball gets so much fanfare. Like, oh, it needs to be bigger. No. Women's volleyball needs to be bigger. Women's volleyball is a way more viable. Like, if you want way more viable, way more women play. It's funny, Rob. I did an interview with TJ Sanders a couple weeks ago, and he's now working with No Easy Bucks, and he talks about how the difference is like when you're in Canada, like volleyball is a sport that women play. There's hockey, there's soccer, volleyball. Like those are the big 3. Maybe you can add ringette in there. If you don't know, ringette is a derivative of hockey. For all the people who aren't in Canada and Finland, no, it's actually pretty exciting. I like it. But when you go to the States, like women's volleyball is the women's sport.
Yep.
Like women play volleyball. Like that is what we do. And he talked about how different the mentality is between women in the States and Canada. Like, I don't understand why the NCAA, why ESPN, why all sports people in the States don't just put, like, they want to make women's sports happen. Women's volleyball is where it's going to make it happen.
For sure.
100%.
Women's basketball is a terrible product. It just
Terrible
is.
product. Yeah.
It's a terrible product. Women's volleyball is a fantastic product.
There's nothing worse than being like, well, like, why don't you just lower the rim like we do in volleyball? Like, oh no, we want to play the men's game. Okay, then why don't you play with a bigger ball? You know, you already play with a smaller ball, play with a lower rim. I digress.
Agreed.
We're getting off track.
Anyway,
here.
You got to watch this tournament. We will help you find ways in the Volleyball Source Discord to watch it if you're not in the US. That always gets a little tricky, but a couple things to point out here. I don't like that they seed 1 through 8, not 1 through 16. But what you do need to know is that if you are seeds 1 through 4 in your region, then you get to host the first 2 games. So Nebraska, when they beat whoever LIU is, I assume that's Long Island University in New York, when they beat them, they will play their next game at home as well. So if you're seeded 1 through 4 in your region, you have home court advantage for the first 2 rounds. And that's pretty big. Because like Florida versus Georgia Tech, for example, Georgia Tech is good. Florida was really good, but they have a superstar setter that got hurt like the second week of the year. And they've been kind of like just holding on by a thread most of the season.
Yeah.
If that was played on neutral court, Georgia Tech would be favored. But because that's at Florida, because Florida's that 4 seed, that definitely changes things. And then Kentucky, the number 2 seed in this region, has your boy Ben Josephson.
Yeah, I'm a Kentucky bandwagoner.
Love it
for this tournament, Rob. Real quick, I do want to say I'm actually going to be doing a podcast tomorrow at some point with my friend Caitlin Genovi, who is
from Houston, right?
So she was actually at Davidson this year.
Got it.
She was just when she was with Houston, she was technically a volunteer assistant, whereas she got like a full on assistant coach with Davidson this year.
Good
so fortunately, they didn't make the tournament, but super stoked to talk to Genovi and get us some like in the NCAA insight about what's going to go down on this tournament. And trust me, she's so smart and so knowledgeable. She's really gonna help us out with the NCAA tournament.
Nice. Yeah, she was great last year, so definitely tune into that. Next region is Wisconsin's region. Wisconsin and Nebraska split when they played twice this year. So Wisconsin's very, very good. Definitely a title contender. They've got Canadian girl Anna Schmeck, who's 6'9", which is insane.
6'9". If you guys are going to want to watch one player in the tournament, I would have to say it's Anna Schmeck. This is a girl that I've been watching since she was 14 years old. And, once again, TJ and I talk about her. She is a dominant blocker. Like, if you watch the NBA right now, people talk about how teams have to change their offensive schemes because you just can't shoot around Victor Wembanyama. That is Anna Schmeck on the defensive side for Wisconsin. She is an absolute monster. So, but Rob, you got to feel good about your Purdue Boilermakers down there, ranked in 3rd. You guys going to be hosting that first weekend or this weekend. How you feeling about Purdue? Of course, Big Ten massively represented in this tournament, but
not so much as usual. That's the interesting thing, is that the Big Ten only has 5 teams in this year. The SEC actually has 8, which is way more than usual. Yeah, the SEC's got 8. The Big 12 has 7. And the Big 10, the ACC, and the Pac-12 only have 5 teams in. So that's very different from most years. And there's actually a good bit of controversy around that, because there's like, of the 64 teams, there's 32 that qualify automatically from winning their conferences. And then the other 32 are kind of like an at-large decided upon by this committee.
Yeah.
The criteria of which is always a bit of a mystery, so we won't really get into that. But Purdue's very good. Purdue's always like around like the 15th best team in the country, like somewhere in that ballpark. They're always spectacular on defense. Purdue's one of the best defensive teams in the country every year. Like backcourt digging, they dig a ton of balls, and they have a couple good middles. I don't love their right side attacking presence. They have 2 unreal young outside hitters. So Eva Hudson is a sophomore, and Chloe Chicoine is a true freshman. And Chicoine is a Lafayette girl, like she's from in town, and is only like 5'10", 5'11", and was like the MVP of U19 Worlds for the USA girls.
Okay.
She's insane. So if you like undersized outside hitters, you got to watch Purdue. Also, Purdue at Holloway Gymnasium is where we host games, and although Marquette is good, who will probably play in the second round, Purdue's home court advantage is so good that we should get to the Sweet 16, no problem. And then where we would probably play Oregon. Oregon's very good, so I'm excited for that game. Also,
Right.
shout outs to Omaha. My buddy Teddy Kopaz is my setter from high school. Was been my teammate forever. He coaches at Omaha, and they won their league to get automatically into the NCAA tournament for the first time ever for their program. So good for them.
All right. Love it. Want to move on now to another one here. Pitt has been good
Pitt's good.
all season long. They're in the same bracket as Louisville, on the same side of the bracket as Louisville as well. You saw Minnesota there unranked, which is
Dude, Minnesota. Once Hugh McCutcheon retired, Minnesota definitely dropped off. They're definitely not the same like a elite top 5 or so team that they used to be. So like big name brand for Minnesota volleyball, but definitely not as scary as they used to be. And I don't know anything about Utah State, but it is interesting that Minnesota is not seeded.
This is why I'm excited to talk to Caitlin Genovi, just because it's so hard to watch, like, especially as a Canadian, it's so hard to watch the NCAA sometimes.
Yeah.
Like there's so much of it is geo-locked. Like it's really, really difficult. So I'm excited to talk to someone who's like in the thick of it, who can kind of give me some of that, give me some of that inside knowledge.
Now Pitt's really good, like you said. They're one of the 1 seeds. They beat Purdue in like the Elite Eight a couple years ago, and like they're awesome. So they've been to Final Fours before. But Pitt versus USC in the second round could be a really good game. Josh Tuaninga's little sister is the setter for USC.
Yeah, I saw that actually.
She's very good, and USC is solid. And that could be one of the very few like second round games with upset potential. So. Keep your eye on that. Creighton is really good as well. I think that they're the 3 seed. They should get to the Sweet 16, no problem. And same with Louisville. Louisville's real good. Creighton versus Louisville Sweet 16 is going to be a sick game.
Yeah, there's that guy on Instagram. It's really like Dan Meskey. He's an associate coach for Louisville.
Yeah, he's all over social media. And then the last quadrant is Stanford's. Stanford's the 1 seed here, but Texas is the 2 seed, the reigning champs.
Yeah, that Texas division there. Texas A&M, Texas State, and Texas.
And SMU is in Houston. That's all 4 Texas teams.
4 Texas teams, so that should be fun. Just moving down here. Tennessee, they've got Western Kentucky, High Point, Coastal Carolina. Meh.
This is a weak region. I think, other than Stanford and Texas, like that, there's not much that I've really got my eye on in this region.
Yeah, BYU, ASU, Houston. That's should Stanford have been a number 1 seed? Meh.
I think so. That they won the Pac-12 very convincingly, and there's pretty good teams in that league, but they're not the like Catherine Plummer's era when they were just like churning out national titles. It's definitely not the same Stanford as that.
No, exactly. That's my kind of my benchmark for Stanford.
Fair enough. Yeah. My pick here is a Nebraska Wisconsin rematch in the championship game. At least that's what I want.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see. Like, but both the games that they've played this regular season were bangers. I hope we see it again. Schedule wise, the first 2 rounds are this weekend, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then on next week's show we'll talk about it before the rounds of 16 and 8, and then the semis are the following week. But what's interesting this year, normally the finals are on like Saturday evening on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
This year they're on Sunday afternoon on ABC, like national, full like national broadcast, like not even on cable, like a regular one of the 5 like fully national channels in the States. Like that is a huge deal to put women's volleyball on that.
Part of me loves that. The ABC part of me loved that. 100%.
I don't like the Sunday though. Sunday's not
exactly with the Sunday. NFL. You're competing with the NFL. You're competing with the NFL, and that's just not a good idea to do, especially because it's on ABC, so it's probably not going to be streamable, right? This isn't a throw the NFL game on the TV, put the volleyball game on the laptop type of situation. This is going to be watch one or the other. This is going to be a channel switching back and forth. So we'll have to see how that bodes well. We're really hoping the female fans show up, because that's who we want. I'm really hoping for some big games here. I really, really am. For some big numbers. Yeah.
Me too. So we've got an NCAA channel in the Volleyball Source Discord. So if you want to talk about the tournament or figure out where to watch it, get in there, and we'll be following along with it the next couple weeks. So yeah, first 2 rounds this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we'll talk about next week if anything interesting happens.
Anything else to talk about here, Rob? Is that I think that's about the end of the notes. Anyone in the chat have anything to bring up? Actually, never mind. It won't get to us in time.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Big week of volleyball. Huge day at Champions League tomorrow. Big weekend of NCAA, and then all the normal European leagues. We will see you same time, same place next Tuesday. Don't forget.
Only 2 more days. Only a couple more days. That volleyball.store. Use the code DADDY. You've only got a couple more days to pick up some merch.
Don't forget. Yeah, thatvolleyballstore.com. Link is in the description. That's it. We'll see you next week.
It's also thatvolleyballstore.com, and it's no longer
Yeah, links in the descriptions. Check that out. We'll see you on the Volleyball Source Discord. Same time, same place next Tuesday.
Peace.